So Pixar movies can make you feel one of two ways. Really happy, like this, or really sad, like this. The thing is, Onward didn't make me feel either of those things. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm talking all about Disney Pixar's Onward, directed by Dan Scanlon, who did Monsters University. So if you're familiar with that film, the same similar style comes into play here. But before I dive into anything about Onward, if this is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James. Now if you don't know who that is, that's me, and I love talking all about movies, so each and every day I'm dropping a new video you're not going to want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Also tap on the notification bell right next to it just to stay up to date with anything new that drops. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and in the comments below, let me know what you guys think about Onward. Are you excited for this movie, or are you kind of reserved? Because that's how I was. Now a little bit of housekeeping for you guys. We are nearing 900 subscribers. That is huge. There's a couple different things that I'm also applying for this year, and I'm gonna start my coverage of the Miami Film Festival very soon. So if you're interested in hearing about some new films that'll drop this year, go ahead and stay tuned to the channel. Trust me, you're not gonna wanna miss anything. If you've been paying attention to the Real James social media, I just got back from Disney. It was pretty awesome. So that's why I was on a little break this weekend. But this week, whew, there's a lot to talk about. Again, you're not going to want to miss out. Hit that subscribe button, guys, and stay up to date. Okay, so enough of me blabbering. Let's get into why I didn't cry in this movie. I really wanted to cry in this movie. Onward is a very family-friendly fantasy adventure movie starring the Lightfoot family, Barley and Ian, who want to just spend one more moment with their dad. And the thing is, there's one final gift that their father wanted them to have when they both turned 16 or over 16. It's this magic staff that will bring their father back to life for one more day. Unfortunately, only half of his body shows up, so they have to go and find a phoenix gem to bring the rest of his body back to life. Here's the catch though, they only have 24 hours to do it, and throughout that we start to experience some trouble along the way. So as you can tell, this is definitely a Pixar movie. I mean, family, adventure, father, emotion, all of that is really bundled into one here. But does the movie do it well? Before I get into any of the negatives, let's just hop into why I think the movie's fine and what I actually liked about the film. So it's funny, I started getting a little bit more excited as I was sitting in my seat for this press screening, and I thought to myself, maybe this film is going to be better than I'm anticipating, because I didn't really feel very hyped for Onward, and maybe that's because I didn't think the animation was very good, but it's almost like my mind did a 180, because when I watched the film, the animation is definitely not the problem. All of the sets look fantastic. Actually, I was afforded the chance to speak with Carlos Leon, who does the set designs for this film, more specifically the Manicore's Tavern, and I thought it looked fantastic in the presentation. And in the final film, it looked even better. The animation from the sky, the suburbia environment, to literally the shoes on their feet looked absolutely outstanding, and I don't think that's the issue here at all. And another area where I felt the film succeeded was this suburbia environment. It's funny because I didn't really buy into this whole like elves living in a urban town, or a suburban town, sorry. But it worked for me, and I thought that the movie was actually really cute, genuine. It played a lot to some things in society nowadays where, I don't know, cops are kind of lazy, and well, I'm not saying all cops are lazy, but it plays to those tropes, and you'll see a lot of stereotypes in the town. I love this rock and roll vibe that I got. You know, the van named Guinevere, which is actually really funny, definitely play to a certain bone in my body that I've been itching to kind of revisit ever since I was a kid. And a little unknown fact about me, I actually used to collect dragon statues. Yeah, so this movie kind of scratched that itch for me too. Now this movie starring Chris Pratt and Tom Holland as our main characters and brothers in the film really worked for me for the most part. I think their chemistry was decent together, but separately, Chris Pratt is the standout here. The man is absolutely on point. His humor, his charisma, the jokes in this movie aren't very good, but it's his performance and his personability that bleeds through the screen and makes some of these jokes even better. Now on the other hand, Tom Holland playing Ian Lightfoot brings a very grounded performance, but it's also very safe. His chemistry, again, like I said, is decent with Chris Pratt, but I just don't really feel like he had a standout performance like Pratt. I mean, both did a good job, but I just think Pratt did much better because his character allowed him to be, well, him. And like I said earlier, this is a very accessible fantasy adventure film for children because a lot of the generation nowadays, they don't really know much about dragons, about wizards, or maybe even Dungeons and Dragons, all those different games. So Dan Scanlon needed to assume the responsibility of introducing it in a very digestible way. And I think he did that for the most part. But unfortunately, Onward isn't really all the way around a great film. There are some things that, yeah, that held it back. And it's not that I hate it, it's just that it really has some issues. And the first thing that really comes to mind is there's nothing outstanding about this movie. When you come into a Disney Pixar film, you kind of expect very high levels of emotion, whether it be positive or negative. And this film kind of teeters in the middle. There's nothing that the movie does great, and I kind of walked out thinking, this isn't Pixar's best, and it really isn't. And it doesn't need to be an A+ film, don't get me wrong, it just didn't really flow as well as I think the movie wanted to. Whenever I sit down for a Pixar movie, I'm always looking for that defining moment, and there wasn't one. I felt the film was building up to it, and that's also something that I didn't really appreciate, is that it built up to this final sequence, and then when it got there, it just went through it so fast, in 5 minutes. If you're going to build up to an emotional moment, you need to make that an everlasting feeling, and it didn't really sit well with me. It just kind of came and it went just as fast as it kind of appeared on screen. So it didn't really work, and I think that's a flaw not only in the writing, but also just in the story itself. When Onward is more so about the two brothers on an adventure with half their dad to try to get their dad back and just spend one final moment with them, it's actually very unique, and it is a good feeling. But then you get introduced to the Manticore, who's voiced by Octavia Spencer, and their mother, Lyle, I think Laurel Lightfoot, sorry, these names are definitely very unique. And she's voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Both of them are also on mission to find their sons, or their kids, or her kid. But when we're in the car with them, for example, nothing felt very natural, and it almost just felt like unnecessary. I didn't really need to see their subplot for as much as I did. They were given too much screen time, and it took away from our main story far too often. And I know I just touched on it, but there are moments of danger for our main characters. It just doesn't last long, and I think that kind of kills the tension and the vibe of the film. And you can also say the same about the emotion. When there's a very heartfelt moment between both these brothers, it comes and it just goes. It really feels like Onward is showing you more about the suburbia environment and some of these fantasy adventure moments rather than the heart of the matter, which is two brothers coming from very different points in their lives for one cause in one moment, which is to just spend one final moment with their dad. That's beautiful, but everything surrounding it isn't that great. So what I'm trying to say is Onward isn't Pixar's best. Now, it's actually not their worst either. So the movie is very in the middle for me, and I think that there are some times where I had fun with this film. I love Chris Pratt. He's really the standout. Tom Holland is fine, but everybody else seems to not be on the same page, and I think that the writing hits a wall at some point where you almost feel like, okay, now they're throwing in cheapy, cliche emotional moments just to kind of get us through and gloss over the fact that the story would have been more interesting if it would have just focused on Ian and Barley Lightfoot. Do I like the fantasy elements? Of course. Do I love that final 10-minute action sequence? Yes, it's really awesome. But if a movie is only technically awesome, I think you're missing the other half, which is really the performances being genuine all the way around. And while I feel like they poured out their entire heart and soul into this, some of it felt a little heavy-handed, and it really held back Onward from being one of Pixar's best films in this modern era. Well, you guys, there you have it. That's my take on Onward. Onward. What a sentence. If you enjoyed everything you just heard and saw, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Again, don't forget to tap that bell, guys. And I am loving all of the comments that you guys have been leaving under each and every video, so go ahead in this one and let me know what you guys think of Onward, and if I was wrong, you can call me out if I'm wrong. Don't forget to like this video, share with all of your elf friends. Actually, if you have any elf friends that might just need to ask for some help. And again, stay tuned to the channel this week for my review of The Way Back. I'm seeing that on Wednesday night, so I'm really excited to talk to you about Ben Affleck's latest film, which is probably his most grounded role since he took the role of Batman in, of course, BVS and Justice League. Alrighty, you guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.